Hello. We have reached session 2.4, and we are going to talk a bit about certification, urban district certifications, sustainability certifications today. And I'm going to guide you through a system that is called Dgnb. It is a German system that has been translated into Danish, and we use it in Denmark when we want to sustainability certify buildings and urban districts. And Dgnb basically means Deutsche Gesellschaft für nachhaltiges Bauen, and that is the same as Green Building Council of Germany, which has given the name to this system. So let me take you through the basic things about Dgnb. Dgnb is based upon five pillars, you could say. It is about environmental quality, financial quality, social quality, and process quality, and technical quality. A certain number of criteria within each of these five pillars have to be fulfilled to be able to call your urban district sustainable. So when you want to develop something in Denmark, it can be a tool for actually allowing you to be sure and use this as kind of a checklist to come through all kinds of elements that is relevant to take care of when you would want to address sustainable planning. As mentioned, environmental quality has to do with global and local environment and resource consumption. Financial quality has to do with life cycle cost and the value of the area. Social quality has to do with diversity and structure in terms of social aspects. It has to do with the urban qualities as such, and it has to do with how to make this work and how to adapt, and it has to do with aesthetics. Process quality is about the involvement. How do you actually get users and parties involved in this? How do you develop the quality of the plan? And how do you manage and construct this new urban district? Technical quality has to do with how it is designed and how it's going to work and how that is dealt with in a technical matters in terms of infrastructure, operation, and transport. These five columns, pillars, or whatever you would call them, make out the system with a certain number of criteria, as already mentioned, within each of the five pillars. Environmental quality consists of a level for life cycle assessment. Life cycle assessment is a methodology that you use in order to estimate the impact of, for instance, a building material. It could be a window, for instance. What is the environmental impact of this window from the very early stages of where you actually extract the materials that you are going to construct the window out from, and you extract the materials, you compose the materials in some kind of structure, you mount the different structures, you put these different structures into some kind of window frame, you mount the window frame in the building, you use the building frame, or excuse me, the window frame, and you clean the windows, and you, at some point, it will probably not work any longer, and you have to renew it. The entire run through from cradle to grave is called a life cycle. Some of you may also have heard about an extended life cycle approach, which is called cradle to cradle, and that is what is very dealt with right now and very up in very trendy in a sense, is that you actually think not only about how you extract and how you manufacture this all the way through the lifetime of the component until you get rid of it, but you actually also think about how to reuse it. So cradle to cradle extends the vision of a linear thinking from extraction to demolishment. Then cradle to cradle is a further extension that actually ties the extraction and the demolishment together. So you all actually are forced to think about how to design a window consisting of components that can be reused. That is the cradle to cradle idea. And that is an extended version of the life cycle assessment. Water and soil protection is another aspect that plays a role if you would want to kind of document the environmental quality of an area. In this case, we have the island of Sjælland. We have Copenhagen out here. And what this map actually shows that what is lined up as soil, as earth, as ground today can be heavily diminished when it's going to be flooded over the years. And it can also have an impact on the drinking water quality if salt water is coming in and destroying the quality of the soil. And therefore, water and soil protection from at from the start of an urban planning process until it is planned and is built and is taken into use and it's going into a life cycle, that kind of elements in regarding water and soil also plays a role in how to document the environmental quality of an area. The urban microclimate plays a role. We have already been touching upon this when we talked about the heat island effect, the fact that it is warmer in the cities because of all the hard surfaces. They collect heat, and when you have an area in a city that is too warm, then you will have to cool the buildings and use energy for cooling these buildings. So if you can work to actually avoid the effect of the heat island approach, then you may also get a higher rate in return in terms of solving environmental problems. Biodiversity is another aspect. If you can secure a high level of biodiversity, you will also promote the possibilities for producing more vegetables and food in this area. So a strategy in terms of design thinking that promotes all kinds of greenery, facade, plants, trees, bushes, and whatever that support each other in terms of creating a rich biodiversity, then you're also kind of lifting the possibilities for growing vegetables and food in future planning. So this also gives you points when you want to certify an urban district for sustainable sustainability aspects. There can be other impacts that you may want to think of, and you may want to map in a specific case whether there are issues that play specific roles. It could be about private consumption of people living in that area. It could be about CO2 emissions. It could be about transport and emissions from shipping and energy, agriculture, wastewater, extraction, and fishing. There can individually, depending upon the context, there are other issues that plays a role and that comes from the outside and have an impact upon that area that you are planning. How you use the land in the most sustainable an appropriate and environmentally friendly way as possible is an issue that you can be graded for in a sustainability certification. How you promote renewable energy rather than non-renewable energy is also an element of a sustainability documentation. How you use the land in the most efficient energy efficient way is a consideration also. In this place is Nordhavn, and it has to do with the public transport and how that is optimized as far as possible. How you deal with existing material on the site, can you reuse it, or do you have to get rid of it and take it somewhere else? Is there some kind of circular system that can be to an advantage for the project in this case? And can that also have an impact upon the soil balance in the actual urban development? As one of the as the last issue in regards to environmental quality of an urban area, the possibility and the potential for local food production can also have a positive impact upon the final rating of a sustainability level of an area. In this case, we are on the top of a parking structure in outer Copenhagen, and a group of people have established this little farmland where they actually also individually and family-wise engage in this project and harvest their own grown vegetables and fruits and berries and so forth over the summer in this roof farm. We don't have many of them in Denmark. I know there are quite a few in New York, and there are other places in Europe where you can also see local food production. And we're probably going to promote that since we are becoming more and more people in the cities all over the world in the future. Well, it was not the last. The very last is about water balance. And we have already touched upon that also when we talked about climate adaptation and the fact that you, for instance, in a Danish context, have to deal with increasing amounts of rainwater water in heavy rains and heavy storms over the summer. You have to be able to deal with the water and deal with it in the most environmentally friendly way as possible. So water balance is also an issue that you need to address and needs to be able to document your takes on when you want to get credit for a sustainability certification of an area. Financial quality, besides environmental quality, is another aspect that is going to be dealt with when we talk about sustainable development of urban areas. And in this sense, we're going to touch upon a number of issues. One of them is life cycle costs. Life cycle cost is the cost, for instance, of a building from it is being planned, developed, carried out, taken into use, and for the period of time that is going to be used. So it is a total economy calculation, if you could say so, about a building in an area, for instance. If you make such calculations, you can make calculation for an area. You can sum up the different buildings and the things that are going on in this area and say, estimate what kind of financial value it will create in the future. And those estimations are of importance in order to underline and document the financial impact of a given take or development in a municipality thinking. So municipality has an interest in actually seeing how different moves, different takes, different initiatives all over a city can actually sum up and be some kind of measurement for the successfulness in regards to creating cities that people want to live in and pay for living in, and also that people would want to give care for and maintain and keep going for several years. And that again also have a meaning in regards to consider whether stability and local economics have play a role here. Uh, it can be a matter of is of estimating whether a certain neighborhood needs to have more money pushed into it, more investments, or whether other parts of the city can live without investment, to create that balance that it takes to be sure that a proper amount of money and finances is put into different parts of the city, so that it all together in a holistic approach develops as as reasonable and as profitable as possible. This again can have an impact upon the price of land and how the land is used and what it is used for. This is actually Carlsberg. This is a visualization of one of the winning proposals for the master plan of Carlsberg that allowed the jury that was about to develop this area to establish an overall view upon how can we make the best out of this, and how can we get the right amount of money to pay for the right amount of facilities in the right amount of time, and develop this city in a proper way for a future. All of this also have to do with the social quality. And what you need to know about DGNB is that the financial quality, the environmental quality, and the social quality, they are weighed each. They are alike. They have the same amount of points uh, in creating a sustainable city planning. Financial quality is not more important than social quality, which is not more important than environmental quality. Or you could turn it around and say all three qualities are important to actually support each other. So in this sense, social quality is not less nor more than the other qualities that you need to address. And therefore, to create a lively city where people find it attractive to live and work, and therefore also want to spend money in and live in and take care of to make it last longer, is also depending upon social quality. And there is a number of different aspects and criteria also in that term. One of them is about establishing social and functional diversity. It can be about creating housing for different segments of people, not only wealthy people or poor people, but actually allowing a good mixture of all kinds of people to create diversity and not create ghettos. To assure the social and commercial infrastructure to take care of people being able to transport themselves, and also being able to park their car so that they don't have to walk like kilometers to find their car and get on from there. So that in that sense, social and commercial infrastructure also supports the creation of a sustainable neighborhood or district. Safety. Safety means a lot, also in regards to stability and to character and quality of a neighborhood. Therefore, for instance, good lighting, good artificial lighting is an aspect that has high levels of points in sustainability planning to actually support that people should do not feel unsafe, but that they rather feel that they are home here and that they can live here and be well here. How do you organize the urban life? Is it like in this case that you have a long homogeneous way of working through the city, or can you actually achieve something by making it more organic? That your choice of approach will have a significant meaning for how to develop a sustainable city. Noise, and not least noise reduction. Noise is actually one of the silent, and you couldn't say silent when we talk about noise, but noise is actually a killer. Noise has a lot of causes a lot of death and causes a lot of illnesses and stress and so forth. So if you can lower noise, you actually also score high on regards to making a sustainable city. Free space is also a quality that is highly valued in order to create a sustainable city. Accessibility, how you can, if you are a handicapped person in a wheelchair or blind or uh, don't find it easy to move and so forth, taking care of that and having some design strategies for achieving good accessibility is also an aspect about sustainable planning. Allowing for flexibility, allowing for instance, extending or enlarging or reducing your lot or your house so that you can stay in a neighborhood for a lifetime rather than have to move somewhere else. Whenever people move, it costs a lot of resources and expenses. If you can reduce moving around by, for instance, allowing for a bigger flexibility in terms of being able to extend or reduce your home, then you are also in the position where you can score for, points for that in the sustainable urban planning. How you work, how you integrate your neighborhood in the surroundings. Is that seamless, or is it barriers, or is it not barriers? Is there a possible way through here? For instance, like in this case, you can see that, for instance, here you have roads that come in and meet and allow for the neighboring surroundings to actually also disseminate through here. The way you connect to the surroundings, the way you integrate in the urban setting is also an issue in regards to how to make a sustainable planning. How you design your urban fittings. We talked a little bit about that when I showed you the Copenhagen bench. The visual identity, the idea, the character, the homogeneity, how you actually deal with the aesthetics and how you make that work in the urban space is also an element of a sustainable urban planning. And finally, for this matter, how you can use existing structures. Like in this case, you may recognize it, it's the elephant gate from Carlsberg. And you already saw when we went to Carlsberg and to Nordhavn that they have done a great job to make sure that existing structures is not torn down, but is actually using and creating quality to the future of a transformation of an urban area to another urban area. Art and how to integrate that in the public space is also an element of the social dimension or the social quality of urban planning. And then there is another aspect, and that is about how you actually do this. How do you carry through the planning? How do you involve and how do you define the quality and how do you manage and construct it? A number of aspects connected to involvement of people that are supposed to have their life in this development. What do they want? How can we make it attractive for them? How can we make them take care? How can we create their ownership? How do we actually work this in some kind of co-creation? How do we develop the urban concept on the basis of interconnection with the surroundings or landscape or water features or trees or character? The faithfulness in regards to the existing quality and so forth, how is that dealt with? And how do we integrate this so as many actors who are going to play a role in this city or neighborhood, so they are involved as early as possible and can give their thoughts and ideas into a proper development of the neighborhood? How can we involve the municipality and make them take ownership to this development? How do we develop this so it is manageable with as least resource consumption and as sustainably as ever possible? How do we manage the actual construction site and the process in the most sustainable way? How is that carried out by the entrepreneurs? And how do we actually sell this and communicate it and get people involved in it so that they would also treat this in a sustainable way? And how can we monetize it and work with the experiences that we get from here and improve them and create new patterns that are so sustainable as possible in order to engage and monitor this over the lifetime of it. Process is actually very important to be very considerate and very accurate and very foreseeing around how to actually organize the design process and the building process and the running and maintenance process. That is key, and many sustainable issues can be solved if you have a strong methodology for actually the the basic running of the process. And then, of course, also the technical quality as such needs to be in order to make a sustainable urban setting. Uh, how do we have a as energy efficient and sustainable energy supply as possible? How do we handle the waste as sustainably as possible? How do we handle the rainwater and technical issues and technical matters? If it is needed to have some kind of information and communication technology, how is that done in the most sustainable manner? And how do we take care of the running and the maintenance in the daily routines so it's done as sustainably as possible? the way we run the traffic and the mobility, can we do that in a sense or in a way so that we get so many people as possible out of the car and over into either walking, biking, or using public transportations? How do we support, for instance, electrical cars or bikes so that we can use less fossil fuels and more renewable fuels for cars and bikes and so forth? And how do we actually deal with the public transport? Issues such as these 5 overall things, also bicycling, are playing a big role in how to plan a sustainable city. And taking care also of the pedestrians are really key in order to build a sustainable city. So recall, Dgnb is about 5 approaches, the 3 pillars of the sustainability agenda, the financial, the economical, the financial and the environmental and the social sustainability. They are equally weighed. And then how to actually carry it out, the process of how to deal with all these 3 aspects, and then the technical quality of it. Those 5 headlines, aspects, ideas or dimensions are the essence of a Dgnb certification for sustainable urban districts. Thank you for now.